You're listening to It's Getting Better, a podcast about mental health, hope, and overcoming challenges. While this podcast is not intended to replace medical advice or professional help, we hope that the stories and experiences shared by young people can help you on your journey of getting better. I'm Kate, and today I'm so excited to be joined by the incredible Katie. I'm going to let Katie introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie, and I came on the podcast to kind of talk about my mental health experience. So during quarantine, I developed social anxiety. I got really nervous going into all sorts of social situations. Meeting new people was awful. Going to school, it was just really hard. So I got to a point where I felt like I couldn't control these feelings by myself. So I went to my parents and I started going to therapy. And after a few months of going to therapy, my therapist told me that she had a similar experience with anxiety that I did. And she had been misdiagnosed for years. And she told me that she thought I had ADHD and that my anxiety was a result of overstimulation. So I was super hesitant to go on meds, but I did. And I'm super glad I did. It helped me kind of sort my thoughts better. And now to this day, I'm still on meds. There are days I skip just for various reasons. But yeah, and they've helped a lot.
I want to start actually by asking you a little bit more about like what anxiety actually looks like for you. Can you kind of put us in your shoes?
Yeah, totally. So my anxiety expresses itself in mainly two ways. Sweating. I get super, my hands get super sweaty. I get really hot and overheated. Temperature is huge for me. I get really tight chest and stomach, but mainly the causes of this, social situations, again, meeting new people. I would get in my head about comparing myself and my accomplishments to other people, which would just end up with me spiraling, which was never good. But yeah, mainly sweating and tight chest.
So this was COVID, you were coming back to school, and this is sort of when you start feeling that way. What situations were the worst?
There were a lot of situations, but yeah, I was not used to being in social situations. So the summer of 2020, when people finally started seeing each other a little bit again, with masks on, I just forgot all of my social cues. With friends, even meeting new people was terrible. I felt spotlight effect. I remember we learned this in Mrs. Bliss's psychology class, where it's you kind of think that everyone is paying attention to you, even though everyone is just especially at our age, we're all very focused on ourselves. But I would just be everyone is thinking about me and what mistakes I'm making. And walking into a new class, first day of school was terrible. I hated it. But walking into a new class and having to say here, it was just crazy little things, walking in the halls. I don't know. It was just, it's gotten a lot better. I'm here, doing social situations with no anxiousness, but being one-on-one with people too is just terrible.
For sure. Yeah, that sounds really, really difficult. So at what point did you kind of realize okay, I need to get help. I need to talk to my parents, whatever. What did that process look like?
It was the beginning of my junior year. I just I wasn't in a great place, friends wise, super anxious. I wasn't sleeping very well. I had to listen to man, I forgot all about this. I but I had to turn a speaker on and listen to music that would calm my brain down, because my brain would just go a million miles, and holy crap, it was just terrible. And so that's what I had to do to sleep beginning of my senior year. And junior year. It's a year and a half ago. So I was just this needs to be done. And I went to my parents and I was hey, I think I need a therapist. My close friend's mom at the time was a therapist, so she got me in contact with, and she knew me really well. So she was the bridge between me and my therapist at the time and gave me her number. I reached out to her and I was just kind of hey, this is where I'm at. This is my situation. Can I see you? And she wasn't accepting clients, but she let me see her, which was great. And I saw her for about 6 months probably, and then I stopped seeing her just because I felt like I was doing better and it just wasn't a match. It's super hard to find a therapist who you click with. That is one thing that I did not realize. It is super hard. I didn't click with my therapist, although I grew a lot. I didn't click with her, so I stopped seeing her. Great woman, just didn't click with her.
I think a lot of people find it really difficult to even
talk to their parents about how they're feeling and like, kind of bring it up with other people. So I think that's admirable that you were able to take that step and then find help and get better. So you talk to your parents, you get a therapist, and then at some point you got a diagnosis, right?
Yeah, it's terrifying talking to your parents about it, like even though they're the people you're closest with a lot of the time, but it's hard. And I think it was after like 3-4 months that I got a diagnosis. She told me she called me because I canceled my appointment that day because I was just not having a good day. But she called me and was like, hey, I want to talk to you. Like I think you have ADHD. This is like kind of similar to my situation. And then I went to the pediatrician and she had me fill out a form. She diagnosed me with a generalized anxiety disorder. And my mom was like, hey, her therapist has been talking to her for a few months. I think we should just try ADHD meds. She's overstimulated. Like, we just need to figure this out and let's just try this. I don't want to put her on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety med because lots of reasons again. So I gave a packet to a teacher that I was really close with to kind of get further evaluated. She knew me super well. She filled it out. I got on meds and I don't really know. It just like, you don't really realize a difference until like months later where you're like, okay, here's where I was then and here's where I am now. And it helped a ton. So yeah.
We were emailing back and forth before we sat down. And I remember you saying something along the lines of like, meds can help, but only if you let them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and your relationship with meds?
Totally. So I think a lot of people go into taking medications with the thought that it's like just going to solve all their problems and it's just going to be great and it's going to be smooth sailing. That is not the case at all. So there was like a point in my senior year when I was still on meds where I was just super spread thin. I had a lot on my plate. I was doing extracurriculars, school, work, a lot. And I was like probably at like one of the lowest points I've been. It was a short time span, but I was super anxious again. And it wasn't as bad as like pre-meds. Like they were obviously helping, but I was not doing any sort of self-care. And I think the term self-care is super intimidating and it always has been to me. I'm like, I don't know how to take care of myself. So I think I ended up taking some things off of my plate just to be able to like focus on myself a little bit more, even though I didn't really know how to. But since then, I've kind of been able to find things that I like doing, like reading and like taking baths and going on walks and just random stuff that like clears my head. But I still am not good at it. Like Michaela Hunter, who you interviewed a few weeks ago or something, she is like my like the greatest example of self-care because I have no idea how to do it. I'm still not good at it, but she just like, she does like the more you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of other people, I think.
Yeah, I love what you said about that. And I think that whole concept of self-care along with meds is really important to realize like it doesn't just magically get better. It does require some work. I think that's super valuable. You said you're in a much better place now. And how do you kind of like maintain that? I don't know. Like I'm sure you're still anxious. So how do you respond now that you've learned all of these things? What are kind of your go-to, like, here's how I'm going to respond when I'm feeling anxious?
I think like realizing that other people are going through the same thing. And like, I was always told this, like, you're not alone, but like, I think it really clicked for me. These past few months, it's like, oh, other people are going through the same thing as me. Other people don't feel good about themselves sometimes. Other people are anxious. Other people have mental health problems. And that's totally fine. And it's normal. And Brene Brown is like my favorite person ever. I love listening to her podcast, but she said something once that has just stuck with me, and it's vulnerability creates connection. So I think having connections in your life that go deep and that you can talk to people about, like having someone to talk to is just so important and crucial. And it just makes you feel so much less alone, and like maintaining those relationships and not cutting them off even when you're having a bad day has been super helpful to me. Like I have one friend who has been here like through my entire anxiety experience, and she just knows me super well. So she has been a huge help. Like honestly, connections, and just when you need a break, like respect yourself. And yeah, kind of just like knowing yourself, knowing your boundaries, knowing your limits has been huge for me. Also, again, the spotlight effect, not everyone is paying attention to you.
I think that's a good point. And it's easy to sort of get in your head and get to that point where like, oh my gosh, everyone is noticing every little thing. So kind of forcing yourself to have that perspective is not easy, but really, really valuable. I love it. I want to ask you more broadly, having struggled with social anxiety and probably having a bigger perspective on that whole idea that other people are also struggling. What do you think that we like collectively can do to support people who are feeling anxious and just like kind of address sort of these mental illness problems that we're seeing like among teenagers in our high schools and, in our communities?
I love that question. I think sharing experiences without shame, another thing that came from Brene Brown. Like, I love her. But like going and talking to people about it, like make people feel less alone, like do whatever you can. And if you're given a chance to like be put in a situation where you can like share what you're like, I don't know, like if I feel like I was put in a kind of a unique situation the past year where I was like kind of put in the spotlight in some cases. And I tried to like kind of be vulnerable, but it was hard. And I think like recognizing it's hard and it's not going to be easy to share. Like even right now, like I'm like, things are like resurfacing that I'm like, I literally forgot that happened. But like, this is important for me to share. Like, even if it was hard for me, even if it wasn't like a good time in my life, it's good to share because making people feel less alone through your experiences is so crucial. And reaching out to people if you need help. Needing help is not a weakness. Help is not a weakness. Going to your parents, going to a trusted like teacher or something is so important if you feel like you're struggling and if you like don't see a way out or a light at the end of the tunnel. I've been there. People have been there. A lot of people have been there. And I think like reaching out for help or just talking to a friend or something about it is so important.
And I do think you have an amazing example of like the network that you've built of people who support you. I mean, from friends you have and then also parents and a therapist and a pediatrician and teachers. Like I am so impressed by how you've built this network through vulnerability and that then you have been able to ask for help and find help and also be help to other people. I think that's really, really cool. I want to hear what advice you might have for someone else who feels like you and feels anxious and maybe feels alone. What advice do you have for them?
One thing that I kind of like to do is when I was kind of in my dark spot my senior year, just being super spread thin, I think I saw on like TikTok or Instagram or something, some random social media platform where I saw someone who had anxiety. And she was like, I imagine like a little like friend in my head who's trying to protect me. Like she gave it a name. I have not done that, but I think it's smart too. But like imagining your anxiety is something almost tangible that you can like see or something in your brain, like a separate part of your brain that's just trying to protect you and like being like, hey, I don't need protection right now. I'm just going to set these feelings aside. Although they're valid, I am not like this. I don't need this right now. Like that's totally fine. So I'm going to go into this social situation without that. And that's fine. And I'm going to be great without this unneeded protection right now. But there are situations where you do need that protection and that's great too. Like trust your gut too. But yeah, reach out for help. Always, 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 always. If you need help, reach out for it. Everyone cares. Everyone loves you.
I think that's a wonderful spot to end. I love the advice that you gave. And I think your vulnerability is so powerful. Thank you everyone for listening and we'll catch you next time.